This is the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest intercontinental champion of all time, saying tune in to In Your Head Online. Check it out. Great website, great stuff on there.
Jerry Jarrett said, we're going to make you the hottest thing in Memphis until Lawler comes back. And when Jerry came back, that's when we brought Hulk Hogan in to fight him, and Terry Funk and Dory Funk and Joe LeDuc and the Briscoe brothers, and we had a great year run before I left. And, of course, then we did the stuff with Andy Kaufman, too, there. And then I had the phone call from Vince McMahon, and I went to New York, and I was there for 10 years.
Yeah. Then you went to WCW.
Yeah, WCW. Well, we did, Hulk and I left to do Thunder in Paradise, a TV show, and then we went to do, when we were filming Thunder in Paradise, Eric Bischoff at WCW was filming in the same place at Disney World over there in Orlando, and he signed us up and stayed there for 7 years.
How would you compare working with the WWE to working with WCW?
Well, you know what? It was like a black lipstick and brown shoes, brother. It was a lot different. You know, WWE always professional, first class, all the way, and when we first went down to WCW, they were kind of struggling a little bit, but after we got down there, Hulk and Ric Flair kind of turned everything around with a big match that they had for the belt switch, and all of a sudden, boy, it just took off and went on fire. So then and they started coming up to speed with the WWE, you know, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, both companies, you know, I love wrestling, period, and I think all the boys want wrestling to do good everywhere. Like TNA's got their show on now on Spike TV. We want it to always do good because it gives the boys that leave Vince and them have a place to go.
Right. Now, in both the WWF, WWE, and WCW, you had a hand in creating some of the best theme musics of all time. Was there one that, for you, was the best you ever did?
Well, you know, I loved it. WCW, when Eric Bischoff gave me the Saturday night show for about 8 months before, you know, everything was bought out. But I had so much fun because I was able to use Chris Jericho and Benoit and Dean Malenko and Chavo Guerrero and Eddie Guerrero, because those guys weren't being used on the major shows, so I was able to use those guys, and I loved it. They came to work every day and worked so hard, and now it's great to see them up in New York doing so well. But I had a chance to put a little group together called 3 Count, which is Hurricane now, which is up there, and Shannon Moore. Yeah, and then I put a little group called Young Dragons together, which was Jamie Noble, and I just heard he went back to WWE. So I had fun putting both those groups together. I got the names copyrighted, did the music for them, and we had so much fun doing that. But it was a lot of fun.
Do you enjoy working with the young guys?
Oh, God, yeah, because, you know, I always say the pets is still the future, but the young guys is what's going to really build the future, and you got to have a happy mix. You know, we had a show called the XWF we put together 4 years ago. By the way, those tapes are going to be coming out this next month.
Yeah, I should just get the DVDs.
Oh, great. And so what happened, I had a dream back then 4 or 5 years ago. We had AJ Styles, we had Christopher Daniels, we had Kid Cash before there was a TNA.
Right.
And so, and then we kind of mixed them in with some of the stars like Piper and Sable, and Jerry the King Lawler was teamed up with Tony Schiavone in the commentary, and we had the Road Warriors and Kurt Hennig and Bobby Heenan. And so I've always loved just kind of putting a mixture together because it's like anything else. You have to, it's good to have young talent, but you have to have ratings to keep on the air. So sometimes you have to bring the stars in people recognize, or at least to get them to watch the shows. So once they watch the shows, hopefully they can see some of the younger talent and go, wow. And so, and then those guys will be superstars one day.
Just some questions from the message board, Barbie. So do the guys in TNA, do they come to you for advice? Some of the guys, like the Naturals and
Well, I love that. Well, what happens with me is when I signed on with Jeff and them down there, I worked for his father years ago before I went to New York. They had been wrestling at the old building down in Nashville. You know, the old tin building that had been down there for so many years, you know. And Jeff said, you know, they wanted to get out of there, and could I get them in Universal? So I called Pam Waring, my friend at Universal, and they met with him and got him in up there. My other good friend, Sam Copeland, got him on the Fox Sports Net at that particular time. So my whole job was just working in the parks and doing autographs and stuff and telling people about the shows to get people into the shows each week. And so just recently, they had asked would I do a little bit with the Naturals, and of course I knew them from Memphis, Tennessee when we had them down there, and I said I'd be more than happy to. So I love the kids. They're very talented and they're very good.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely something at TNA is the tag team division. Something you really don't see anymore on WWE.
Yeah, and I think they're going to probably go back to it because, you know, the three things in wrestling you've always grown up watching. You know, you always had a heavyweight champion. You always had maybe a cruiserweight or maybe some of the smaller wrestlers. And then, of course, you had the tags. And there was always like a ladies' match, a ladies' champion. And I think those are the tradition things that you always see in wrestling. And people miss the tag teams. And I think WCW, down at that particular time when Eric was down there, he didn't really care for tag teams too much. So he broke the Steiner brothers up and broke the Nasty Boys up and Rougeau's, all the groups that were down there for a while. So you didn't see tag teams for about a year, but now people are starting to use them a lot again.
Yeah. The tag team there, America's Most Wanted, if you watch them, a lot of their moves and just the way they wrestle, you could tell that they've watched a lot of like Hart Foundation, Rock and Roll Express, and teams like that. I think they're really a good throwback team, but they're mixed with, they do a lot of the new style moves too.
Yeah, they kind of remind me of a modern-day Freebird type deal because they've kind of got that southern redneck, Sweet Home Alabama type look, and both the kids are great. What's good about them, they've got great size on them, because they can wrestle with the smaller teams and do great bumps, but also they can go in there with the bigger boys too. So I think they'll be a good matchup for the Dudley Boyz because our 3D because those guys have got great size too, and so I think that'll be a great matchup for them.
Yeah, it's definitely two teams. Probably the best team in the last 10 years or so would be the Dudley Boyz, the Dudley Boyz, I think they're calling themselves now. And then the best new tag team around would be America's Most Wanted. So it's definitely a match a lot of the fans will want to see.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, because if you look at the TNA talent, AJ Styles and the America's Most Wanted, about the only guys they have there that's really never been with the WWE or ECW.
Right.
Raven, Rhino, Sabu, all those former ECW guys, and the Dudleys, and of course Jeff and all those other guys really came from WWE or WWF, really, but WWE or WCW. So most of the talent they got are former stars from the WWE. Yeah.
The new guy, I think, would be Samoa Joe.
Yeah, Samoa Joe, I'm really impressed with him. He's tremendous for his size. He really is.
Yeah, he's really fun to watch. He's completely different. So what was your question after the message board, Barbie?
One of our fans, The Flea, would actually like to know where you got the name, the Gentrys.
Well, the Gentrys, back when we had our band years ago, we were called the Gents, G-E-N-T-S. But it really didn't fit because back then there were a lot of groups that, the Beatles and, they had all the groups that were out like that. It seemed like everybody kind of had an S on their name. So we went into a bathroom one night back then to use the restroom at our service station. And back on the wall in the service station, there was a contraceptive machine. And so when we were peeing, we were looking on the wall up there, and it said Gentrys. And so this is a true story. So we bought it back, walked back out, and we showed it to our agent and just said, look, y'all said we need to find a game for the Gents. What about Gentrys? And we showed it to them, and they said, you know what, that works. And that's how we really got a name. That's a true story. Awesome. And we were in high school back then, believe that or not. So we were just on our way to T. Walker Lewis YMCA to play a show, and we just had to stop by and get gas. We went to the restroom to use it. And I thought, we went, wow.
Are you the only man with a top 10 hit and in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, do you think?
Well, you know what? I hope so. I don't know anybody else is out there that's really been lucky enough. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than be good. Hulk always tells me that. But like I said before, just being part of a group, the Gentrys back then, and having a hit record was just tremendous for me. And of course, that led to doing a lot of music for WWE and WCW too. Sexy Boy Shawn Michaels and the Wolfpack song, and of course the Hart Foundation stuff, all the Honky hits, and I've been very blessed. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and pinch myself and go, wow, did I really get paid for doing this? Right. I mean, I've had so much fun. I've got a brand new energy drink that just came out this week on the TNA show. You'll see a little bit of the advertisement on that over the next few weeks, but it's out of Dallas, Texas by a company called TNT. You can look it up on your website today if you get a chance. It's just called mouthofthesouth.tv. And it shows you all about the energy drink and everything. So if you get a chance, plug into that. Yeah.
Speaking of Mouth of the South, when did you start using that name?
Back in the Memphis days, back in the early days of Memphis. Oh, my gosh, 20-something years ago. It's just, being from the South and everything. And it just kind of started, had a group called the First Family, and then they started calling me the Mouth of the South down there. And then I just, held on to it for all these years.
Yeah. Well, anybody knows Jimmy Hart, they'll know that they should buy an energy drink from him, because he definitely has a lot of energy.
Well, but you know what? And it's, you know, I've always had fun doing it. You know, I'm not against smoking or drinking, but I've never done that. When I was in school, I always played ball and and everything else, and I just kind of did that my whole life without doing it. But I've always had a lot of great energy out, because if you love what you're doing, you're going to have energy doing it. If you don't like something, but then it's just common sense. You're just not going to put the effort that you really need to put into something to make it successful.
Yeah. And
Jimmy Hart is energy by osmosis. I remember many nights I sat up playing the Legends of Wrestling game, and just when I felt I was going to collapse, Jimmy Hart would tell me to keep on going, baby, because I'm reaching for the top. and I keep on going.
Oh, great. I just came back, too. I just did the THQ game for Vince and them, SmackDown versus Raw, that's going to be coming out, so I finished doing that, and I was up in New York last week, and I hosted one of the 24/7 shows. I think it's going to come out in December, January, the whole month I'm hosting it, and it's Loudmouth Month, and it's about some of the best talkers in the business. So I do one on Stone Cold and all the great footage on him, and Hulk and Savage, and oh my gosh, so many of the great guys, Superstar Graham and everybody. So I think people are going to be really interested in seeing that.
Who would be your personal favorite promo guy?
Well, Jerry the King Lawler, number one. He is so good. I mean, he's always been great. And, of course, Hulk, oh, my gosh, loved his interviews. But Hulky Talk was very good. You know, he was different. So, you know, there's been so many of them. You know, Ric Flair, oh, my gosh, I love Ric Flair's interviews, too.
What do you think about today? A lot of people talk about that they have writers who write the guys' promos. You think it's better for the guys to come up with their own?
Well, you know, here's what I always tell everybody. I can't answer for anybody else, but I know what really helped us in the 80s. We got to do our own promos, and we got to wear our own outfits. We got to be very colorful, and I've always felt like, you know, sure, somebody's got to tell you what they would like, some key bullet points.
Right.
But I think that's okay. You know, this is what you're going to talk about. We need 2 minutes, and this is what the match is leading up to. But I've always felt like it's better to create your own interviews because it gives you your own character. If everybody was alike, you know, then nobody would be different.
Sticks out, exactly.
You talk about creating your own character and your own look. Is there anywhere somebody can go to get their own customized airbrush jacket?
Well, you know what I call them, Jimmy Hart Blue Light Kmart Special. But I just, you know, always what I would do, I'd always change my jackets for the guys that I managed, because I always felt like it just made me special being with them.
Yeah, definitely. You don't see that too often anymore, the airbrushed. Killings does it once in a while. Rick Rude used to do it.
Yeah, well, my thing's now, I don't even airbrush mine anymore. I have a seamstress that whatever I put on them, she sews on the logos, because what happened back in the day, they were very colorful, but when you take a lot of bumps off the ring apron, every time you're back or you would hit the floor, it just kind of wear it off and kind of make dingy looking.
Did you keep all yours?
Yeah, I've got tons of them. I was up at the WWE last week doing a DVD for Hulk, and I took a lot of my jackets up there. They wanted to film a lot of the jackets and stuff, so I took them a lot of stuff for them to look at and use on the DVD.
What was it like being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, my gosh, probably the biggest thrill of my life. When Jim Ross and Johnny Laurinaitis called me, I was kidding with them. I said, "Are you sure you're not calling Bret Hart?" And they all laughed. And they said, "No, if anybody deserves it, you do." And I was very, very grateful, and especially going in there with Piper and Hulk, because if you're going to go on any time, buddy, I really go in with two of the biggest names in wrestling ever.
Yeah.
And going in with them, it just really made my day. And, of course, being in there with Nikolai and you know what, and Iron Sheik and Paul and them, but you know what, and on my speech I told the truth. I said, my gosh, where in the world could you go into a dress room back in our day and you see Andre the Giant playing cards in the corner? You have the Honky Tonk Man tuning his guitar. You have the Rougeau brothers over there talking the Metro with the Nasty Boys. You had the British Bulldogs feeding Matilda. You had Jake over there with Damien. Mr. Fuji was playing tricks on people. Bobby Heenan was telling jokes. I mean, it was like not even going to work every night. It was just so great back then.
Right. So you've always been a wrestling fan, and you're still a wrestling fan today. Oh,
boy, I love it. I eat, sleep, and drink it. I wish I could watch it more, but, you know, I've got so many other projects that we're working on to do it. I don't have a chance. But, my gosh, I've always loved it. Even when I was in music and touring with the Gentries, we used to do the bus tours back then, like with Sonny and Sharon, the Beach Boys, and everything with Dick Clark. There'd be 3 or 4 groups on a couple of buses, and we'd tour the country. And when we'd you know, check in at the show on Friday night, I'd always look in the paper on Saturday, no matter where I was, if I was in Florida or wherever, and look to see what time the local wrestling shows would come on.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great, you know what? One of the other great interviewers too was Dusty Rhodes.
Oh yeah, in Putnik, if you will. What are you saying, Bobby?
I was just saying, I don't know where people in America would find it, but anybody in the UK who checks out the wrestling channel can find Jimmy not only on Memphis Wrestling, the home of Rhythm and Brews, but also classic Memphis Wrestling. You do those shows with Jerry Lawler and
all of us. You know what? You're absolutely right. And also, too, I was going to let you know that starting this next month, we're going to have a 30-minute infomercial over there on the XWF. And the people are going to be able to get our XWF tapes over there, too. So we're going to start running those next month over there with our good friends from the Wrestling Channel.
Mm-hmm. I'll keep my eyes open for that.
Yeah, I watch them on DVD. They're really fun.
Well, you know what? We felt like we had something going on back then. But before we had a chance to really go out and get them placed, the first day we cut them, you know, Vince had signed Lawler, and a lot of our stars, so we really never had a chance to go on. I think that's good for us because once with Table and Piper and all them back on TV, it's that much more valuable now.
Right. Mm-hmm. You think wrestling as a whole needs another big wrestling on TV, some kind of competition for WWE?
Well, you know what? Here's what I think. I don't think it's really competition. I think it gives the fans a chance to see another product, which is great. I think the fans will be able to watch TNA on Saturday nights, and on Monday nights and Thursday nights, or Friday nights, they'll watch Vince's show, and it gives them a chance to see some of the people that are no longer Vince, that they've got jobs now by being with another company. So I think it's going to be great for all the fans. And it would be great probably if a third show could start somewhere. And you know what usually happens, don't you? It's like I was watching the show Miami Ink. 2 weeks later, I see another tattoo show out of Las Vegas called Hart and Huntington. All of a sudden, I see the Emerald Cooking Show. 3 weeks later, I see Hell's Kitchen. So I've noticed that America, it seems like now, I think it's going to probably open the net, because at one time, remember, WWE was on, WCW was on, and ECW was on. So there were 3 wrestling shows at one time on. So I bet you if these shows can get hot again, that you watch a network or somebody will be looking for another wrestling show out there.
Yeah, it helps everybody. It helps the people in the wrestling.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah, because I watched them all when they were all on, definitely.
Yes, it's great.
What do you think about the 6-sided ring in TNA?
No, I think it's different, and sometimes, you know, you have to take chances to be different, and I think the people seem to enjoy it.
I think after you see it a couple of times, you really don't even notice it, for me anyway.
To me, I think it would have been cool if you could have had the 4-sided ring, and then when the X Division came on, all of a sudden that's when they wrestled on that special 2-sided ring.
Set it apart.
Yeah, right. So it just came out once in a while for something really special, like tonight it's the championship match for the X Division. And then here comes the 6-sided ring, and here comes the big rope off the top with the belt on, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think to me, I liked it like that, but, you know, it's not my show, so.
So you're excited about debuting on Spike?
Well, I think it's great. I mean, Dixie Carter and Bob Carter spent a ton of money through 2 years trying to keep this thing alive. And a lot of people have come and gone, and I think now their dream has come true. And thanks to Vince, really. You know, because Vince had probably never left Spike. They'd probably never had a chance to go on. So, you know, good things sometimes come by other people leaving the door open for it to happen. So I think Spike's lucky that they're giving these guys a chance, and I think it's good for these guys, too, to have a chance to go on Spike.
So you're excited to be on Raw Monday. You're on the big homecoming show.
It's a big thrill. I don't care if I'm on 1 second or 2 seconds. I promise you, when you see Jimmy Hart, he'll be live and in living color, baby.
Throwing his arms up in the air and screaming, probably.
I'll have the jackets on, the whole deal.
Yeah, you got to bring back the megaphone.
I'll have a couple of calls before we let you go.
Yeah, I'd love to. Please, love to.
Absolutely.
All right, so if anybody
wants to talk with Jimmy Hart, you can phone in on 508-644-8503. Long distance charges may apply, so if you've got a cell phone, you know, use that.
Right. Meantime, we can ask some questions here from the message board.
Absolutely. One of our fans, Jay Buckingham Winchester, would like to know if you ever worked in Sun Studio or met Sam Phillips or any of the other famous artists who recorded there.
Yes, Sam Phillips was the person who, after we got off MGM Records, Sam Phillips was one who was able to sign me to a deal. Knox Phillips produced me on Watch You Cry and Cinnamon Girl, the old Neil Young hit. And we had an album out on Sun, but I'd met Sam many times, Jerry Lee Lewis. I met Elvis twice in my life. I had a manager named Marty Lacker. If you ever read the books, he was the Memphis Mafia. That's what they called him. And George Klein's the one who really got us our first deal with MGM, but had a chance to meet Elvis twice. So growing up in Memphis was really a thrill for me.
I think we've got Rick wants to ask you a question.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, how you doing? I wanted to ask who, in your opinion, was the best tag team.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? Everybody was different. The Nasty Boys were the most rugged because they were wild and crazy, but the Hart Foundation were just so good because, you know, Anvil was a little unorthodox, but boy, Bret Hart, he could get in there with the best of them. And, buddy, when you came out of the ring with Bret Hart, you knew you had been in a school.
Oh, definitely. That's probably my favorite tag team. Remember the Midnight Express. They didn't manage him, but who would be your favorite manager besides yourself?
Well, you know what? There's been a lot of them. I liked a guy I gave first knee pads and elbow pads to, Jimmy Cornette. Loved Jimmy. Of course, Bobby Heenan, former ex-wrestler. But I love Bobby's stuff. You know, he was wonderful. I got to see him manage, but I got to see him in the ring work, which Fred Blassie was great in the ring, you know, because a lot of the guys who managed really were ex-wrestlers, you know.
Right.
And I really, those guys were great. I loved Paul Lee. When Paul Lee was doing his managing, I loved Paul Lee's stuff, you know. Yeah.
I think he was really helpful in putting Brock Lesnar over as a big star when he came in.
Well, you know, a lot of times when you watch ECW, you don't realize how important Paul Lee was back then to those characters and taking guys nobody had ever heard of before, and along with his crew, Joey Styles. I love Joey Styles' voice, doing the commentating on that. I thought he just made that so. I mean, whoever did what, did a great job with that show.
You know the question there from the message board, Barbie?
One of our female fans, Susie, wants to know, apart from getting into the Wrestling Hall of Fame, what is the proudest moment of your wrestling career?
Well, you know, I think, I guess, there's been so many of them. I mean, I've just, everything I've ever done has been so much fun and wonderful. You know, just realize that being on the first WrestleMania, I mean, being on number 2 and 3 was great, but just being on the very first one, because when I was called from Memphis, Tennessee to go up to New York, we didn't know if this was going to work or not. Vince didn't know. I mean, he had to borrow money from the bank to put the show on and refinance his house and do everything, but it was a dream for him. So being on that very first one and to realize it's still going 22 years later, which the next one will be WrestleMania 22, is just fabulous.
A friend of our show, Duckman, sent in a question. You want to know if you had any advice for a young man in the music business, how he could get into wrestling?
Wow, a guy in the music business trying to get into wrestling. Well, you know what? You ought to try to go to Memphis, because there's only one live show left that I know of in America, which is Memphis, Tennessee, that you can really go down there and get some good training, because, you know, Jerry Lawler's down there every couple of weeks, and Coco wrestles down there, and that's where I got my start down there, too. And there's nothing like being on live TV.
Yeah, another one, Barbie.
One of our fans, Heads Akimbo, wants to know what it was like working with Brett, Neidhart, Tenza, and Bravo.
I loved him. The Canadian connection, really. Dino Bravo was very different. I loved him very much. He wasn't very colorful. And then when they put me to him, they said, "Can you do something with Dino? He's great in the ring and talks okay, but we dressed him up like the strongman outfit." So Dino was great, man. He was fabulous. And of course, Earthquake, I mean, what a great gentle giant he was. What a great big man he was, and for his size could really move. And of course, Bret Hart, what can I say? I mean, I felt like part of the family with him and Neidhart, but especially Bret. When Stu was alive up there, and I'd go to Canada with him, he called me Cousin Jimmy, Cousin Jimmy.
Tyler wants to know, which is your personal favorite theme song that you wrote?
Well, Sexy Boy Shawn Michaels I love. The Honky Tonk Man stuff I really like, but I love the Wolfpack song that we did for Nash and Hall.
Yeah.
Oh, you did that one?
Oh, yeah. You know, when Jason Giambi bats for the Yankees in New York, they play that theme song when he goes up to bat.
I heard that.
Any plans about doing some theme songs for TNA?
Not really. I think the kid they've got doing their stuff does a real good job of it. So, you know, I think he's doing great.
Yeah, he does a good job.
I think it's Dave Arnold.
Yeah, he does real good. So, you know, there's no need for me to do my music there.
Bob from Florida wants to know, how was it like working a program with Terry Funk against the Junkyard Dog?
Oh, my gosh. It was wonderful being with Terry, and the dog was just one of the few people that could go to the ring, and the people just absolutely went crazy on the Junkyard Dog, no matter what he did. But Terry and him were just great. You know, they were so different. It was so good. So all I did was just enjoy the match. And when Terry would ask me to do this or do that, I'd make sure I was always there for him, because what a legend Terry Funk is.
Oh, yeah. You surprised he's still wrestling?
Well, I know he's always loved it, but his style, he can do it forever because it's more of a brawling type style now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Start the ring in about 30 seconds, and the rest of the time it's on the floor.
I think him and Flair, they'll wrestle forever.
I'm sorry?
I think him and Ric Flair, they'll be wrestling forever.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, like I said, the past is still the future. You know, there's Rick, just got the belt put on him in his territory, and what's he, about 53 or 54? And Jeff's one of the oldest guys. He's still young, but he's one of the oldest guys for TNA, and they put the belt on him. So, like I said, both territories made belt switches that week with two of their oldest guys.
Golgo 13. Oh, we got a call.
You're live on In Your Head, and you're talking to the host and the Memphis South, Jimmy Hart. Who are you?
Hey, what's up? It's me again.
Hey, this is Anime Angel from Texas. You have a question for Jimmy Hart?
Let's see. You are involved. I'm thinking of one. Hold on just a second. Okay. You are involved in the WWE Homecoming, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering how you're looking forward to that.
Well, you know what? It's very exciting because it gives me a chance once again to see Piper and to see Mick Foley, who I was with 3 weeks ago. Hawk's going to be on that show. And also Coco Beware and Greg Valentine and Tito Santana. And, you know, a lot of the stars back in our era that we traveled for 10 years up and down the roads with, like we were like a big fraternity. And so just seeing those guys again, it's just wonderful because everybody tells so many great stories and there's so many wonderful memories. And being part of that homecoming show, which I'm sure will do a tremendous rating that night, the first night back on USA. So it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, I have another question I just thought of. What do you think your participation will be in the show?
Well, you know what? I told somebody the other day, I said, it really didn't matter if they just had us walking out with a little video behind us, or if they had us sitting in the audience. You know, just being part of that, and still, I'm still out here doing it is wonderful. You know, my new Jimmy Hart action figure just came out about 3 weeks ago, and I'm so excited over that. It's you know, that classic WWE superstar deal. And then they just called me last week, and next month, the brand new Jimmy Hart, Bret Hart, and Julian Hart tag team action figures are going to be coming out.
Oh, that'll be a nice collection to buy. I should collect those figures.
So it's just you know, it's just great after all these years to still have the action figures coming out, and the people still recognize you. So it's wonderful.
They must be good sellers because they keep putting them out.
Boy, I heard that they're really doing tremendous. You know, all these stuff does, and I think as people get older and everybody kind of wants to live back in your childhood, and like you said, back in the '80s, everybody was so colorful. I know the series I'm on, it's got the Ultimate Warrior and Harley Race and Andre the Giant and Don Baracco, Davey Boy Smith, Gorilla Monsoon, and of course Billy Superstar Graham. So I'm very flattered to be with that bunch of characters.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything else, Anime?
Yeah, I have another one.
All right.
It's probably been asked before. How do you like working with the natural?
I love the kids. Well, you know, the kids are so quick and so good, and they're so humble, and the girls love them to death. You know, I think those kids could really be great merchandise sellers for TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, because I think the one thing missing in wrestling now is back in our day, a lot of the girls used to go to the matches, you know. And now when you see them, it seems like there's more men than girls there. So I think with the right push and everything else, the Naturals could really draw a lot of the young ladies in to see them. But they're very, very good in the ring. The kids are real good.
Do you see yourself?
This lady's got them.
Saucy little devil. Now, Jimmy, do you see yourself with the Naturals for the long haul, or is this something that's going to fizzle out sooner rather than later?
It's really according to what TNA wants to do. You know, my thing was I just was up there doing the publicity for them. And they had asked me, would I, do in the circumstances what happened with Chris Candido passing away, would I fill the void? And I'm sure they've probably got somebody else in mind to do the stuff with them. I just tried to fill the void for those few weeks there until TNA figures out what they really want to do with them.
Did you prefer being a heel or a babyface manager?
Well, you know what's happened with everything? I think what we did is we just went out and did our character the best way we could, and either people liked you or didn't. What I found out, if you're colorful and you've got a good rap on you and you do a lot of crazy things, people are going to like you no matter what.
Right.
It's like Ric Flair. I mean, people love Ric Flair. They don't hate Ric Flair.
Yeah.
I mean, once you've been around for 10 or 15 years, people grew up with you. They just automatically, like you.
Yeah, I think a lot of legend types like him, they really can't be heels anymore because everyone just wants to cheer them.
You're so right. You're so right.
You think that's something that's missing from wrestling, though? The managers think they could use some more?
Well, I know that what I think is, which they use a lot of girls now because I think the TV shows think that men watch girls. Well, if that's the case, then why even call it wrestling? I mean,
Right.
I feel bad. AJ Styles is tremendous, and America's Most Wanted are great. But if you've got to go out and put 4 or 5 girls out during a show like that, well, then to me it just kills the wrestlers off. It's like the TV stations are saying, hey, look, we like wrestling, but we want more girls on it, so that means the guys don't mean nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I was at a company and going to use girls, I'd make sure I use my girls, but all of them wrestle, because there's got to be a payoff at the end of it.
Right.
You know, it's okay for a girl to jump in the ring and beat a guy up and everything else, but how are you going to get even with them?
Mm-hmm. I really think the women in wrestling were more over when there was less. Like, everybody remembers Miss Elizabeth or Sunny, and at the time there were really only 1 or 2 women. But when they have, 10 or 12 on a show, it's hard for any of them to stand out, if you remember.
No, you're so right. It's like going to a Miss America contest. You've got so many of them, and everybody's got their favorites. But no, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's what happened to WCW and WWE at one time. I mean, every segment had a girl, and pretty soon it means nothing, I think have the chosen few, make sure they can wrestle, so that way, if they get into a cat fight or something, at least on a pay-per-view, you can have a blow-off with them.
Yeah. It's kind of like when we had Boogie Woogie Man last week, he said when he used to have music, hardly anyone did, and now everyone does. And to stand out, he would come out with no music now if he was somebody. After a while, it's pretty much everyone has a woman. If you didn't have a woman, you'd be different.
Yeah, I've just always felt like it's okay if you put a girl with somebody if they're lacking something.
Right.
But a lot of these guys are so good in the ring, if you have a girl at ringside with her boobs hanging out and everything else, then the guys are going to watch her and not really watch the guy in the ring who's really killing his body, and 20 years later, this guy will be crippled, and the ladies really won't be. So I've always thought that was, I think you should have them, but I just think there's a way to make sure it's done the right way,
Yeah, get the most out of them.
Absolutely.
Just you talk about guys being crippled. What do you think of some of the big bumps guys take nowadays? You think they take too many?
Let me just say this. Dusty Rhodes and myself were watching a TNA match about 7 months ago. And Dusty was watching back and forth, and he looked over at me and he said, Jimmy Hart, he said, I feel like I'm at a stunt.
Hello? Yeah, we're here.
You hear me? He said, I feel like I'm at a stunt show convention. And it's scary to me because I am so scared these guys are going to really injure themselves because they're phenomenal athletes. But, oh, my God, they scare me to death.
Mm-hmm. We have one last question for you before we let you go. The producer's not going to be too happy with us. We're running a little bit over time. But one of the fans in the chat room currently who from Canada says that on July the 22nd this year, the original Hart Foundation was reunited at a Border City wrestling event in Oldcastle, Ontario. How was the experience for you?
Tremendous. Bret Hart, Neidhart, and myself, we got together. It was Scott Demore. He runs the Border City Wrestling. Does a great job of that. It was great. We signed autographs for 2 hours and 55 minutes. They had to hold the show up. The fans were just awesome. They brought memorabilia that I forgot we even had out back in the day. But they brought the action figures and the posters and the trading cards, and oh my gosh, it was just so wonderful. And then we went to the ring, and I went out and brought Neidhart out, and then we brought Bret out, and then we all circled the ring, and the fans were just great. But I've always loved Canada because that's when when Jack Tunney was really big, alive, and he was running Canada. Every month I was in Toronto, buddy, but it was just great. And the fans have always been wonderful to us.
Yeah, the Canadian fans, they don't generally follow the lead well, but they are definitely passionate about what they like, which helps the show. Well,
what did you think about the title change for TNA that happened off air? Do you think it was a good idea to do it off air? And, like a house show? Jeff Jarrett winning the title?
You know what? I'm really careful about what I say on that because I don't work behind the scenes.
Right,
I guess they had their own reason for doing it. And, and unless you know why it was done, sometimes you don't know. Somebody could have an injury. Somebody could be leaving a territory. I'm not saying it was in this case, but you just don't know what particular reason they have to do, you know, what they do. You'd think that they would do it on the pay-per-view or something where the world could see it and not just on the internet, you know.
Yeah.
But there might have been another reason why they had to do it, you know, for some reason. And you know, I wasn't privileged to that. I didn't ask about it. And so...
we don't want to get you in trouble here.
No, well, it won't get me in trouble.
I'm just kidding.
My main thing is just, I don't, you know, sometimes you don't know why people do what they do, but there's always a major plan, hopefully, while people do what they do.
Yeah, my plan in the long run. We have one more question here I must ask you before I let you go. Is Golgo13 wanted to know what you thought of the Dungeon of Doom?
Oh, the Dungeon. Well, that was wild and crazy. God, what a memory he's got. Me and Kevin Sullivan, and oh my gosh, it was crazy, man. We had the big wall built up in the studio, and we had the giant in there, and he busted through it. The Dungeon of Doom was kind of before its time, I think. I think if we had the Dungeon of Doom now, it'd probably be a great Saturday morning cartoon show.
So tell everybody to visit CarolinaChampionshipWrestling.com to find out how they can meet Jimmy Hart at the Big Spartanburg Show at Tribute to Starrcade. It will take place November 19th. And thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you.
We greatly appreciate you coming on.
Well, Mac, going to be there, Tully Blanchard, of course, Dusty Rhodes and Jimmy Valiant and Rocky. It's going to be such a great, great, great night there. We love you guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, guys.
Keep on going, Jimmy. You're going for the top.
All right. Never trust a midget, guys. See ya.
You can't trust midgets.
Hey, this is Bret the Hitman Hart, and you're listening to InYourHeadOnline.com.